The great auction hall of Orion Trade Station was louder than usual that day. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy filled the massive room. Bright lights hung from the high ceiling, and giant holographic screens floated in the air. On those screens, ships appeared one by one: freighters, fighters, cargo carriers, and rare collector vessels. Every few seconds, a new bid echoed through the hall. 300,000 credits. 400,000. Sold. The auction moved quickly. Rich traders, military buyers, and space pirates all competed for the best ships. Some vessels were old but reliable. Others were experimental models with rare technology. For many buyers, this auction was the best place in the galaxy to find powerful ships for a cheap price. At the back of the hall sat a single human. His name was Daniel Carter. Daniel was not rich. Not even close. He was a simple cargo pilot who flew supplies between colonies on the outer edges of civilized space. His small ship, the Wayfarer, was old and needed repairs. That was the only reason he had come to the auction. He hoped to buy a few cheap parts. Maybe an engine coil. Maybe a used navigation system. Nothing special. Daniel leaned back in his chair as another ship appeared on the screen. It was a small patrol craft. The bidding started immediately. 200,000 credits. 250. 300. Within seconds, the price jumped far beyond anything Daniel could afford. He sighed and crossed his arms. "Yeah, definitely not for me," he muttered quietly. Beside him sat an old Tarkan trader, a tall alien with gray skin and glowing yellow eyes. The alien noticed Daniel watching the auction with mild interest. "First time here, human?" the trader asked in a rough voice. Daniel nodded. "Yeah. I just came for spare parts." The alien chuckled softly. "Then you are in the wrong room. These ships are not for small pilots." Daniel smiled politely but said nothing. The auction continued for nearly an hour. Ship after ship appeared. Ship after ship was sold. The hall was full of energy and excitement. Until suddenly, everything changed. The lights dimmed slightly. The giant holographic screens flickered. The auctioneer cleared his throat. "And now, our next item." His voice sounded different this time. Less confident. A strange shape slowly appeared on the main screen. At first, many people in the hall did not even understand what they were looking at. The ship was enormous. Far larger than most warships. Its long metal hull looked dark and damaged. Deep scars covered its surface, as if it had survived countless battles. 4 massive engine structures stretched from its sides like giant wings. Ancient symbols were carved into the armor, glowing faintly with a cold blue light. The design was unfamiliar. Very unfamiliar. No one in the hall recognized it. A soft wave of whispers moved through the crowd. "What kind of ship is that? I have never seen that design before. Is it military?" The auctioneer hesitated for a moment before speaking again. "This vessel was discovered drifting in deep space near the Outer Rim Graveyard sector." That name alone made several aliens shift uncomfortably. The Graveyard sector was famous for one thing: dead ships. Thousands of them. The auctioneer continued. "The vessel appears to be extremely old. Our scanners estimate it may be several thousand years old. Unfortunately, we have very limited information about its origin." More whispers spread through the hall. Daniel leaned forward in his chair. Now he was interested. The ship on the screen looked incredible. Not beautiful. Not modern. but powerful. It looked like a predator from a forgotten age. The auctioneer forced a smile. The starting price is 50,000 credits. Silence. Complete silence. No one raised their hand. The auctioneer waited a few seconds. Still nothing. He cleared his throat again. 40,000 credits. The silence continued. Daniel glanced around the room. Many aliens looked uneasy. Some refused to even look at the screen. Others whispered quietly to their neighbors. The old Tarkin trader beside Daniel leaned closer. "Do you know what that ship is?" the alien asked. Daniel shook his head. "No idea." The trader's glowing eyes narrowed. "Neither does anyone else." Daniel looked back at the screen. The ship seemed even larger now. Even more mysterious. The auctioneer tried again. 30,000 credits. Still no bids. Now the silence felt heavy. Uncomfortable. Daniel noticed something strange. Some of the older traders in the room looked afraid. Finally, one reptilian alien near the front spoke loudly. "That ship should not be here." A few others nodded. The auctioneer quickly responded. "I assure you, the vessel has been fully secured. It is currently stored in docking sector 12. But his voice lacked confidence. The Tarkin trader whispered again. "Ships that drift alone for thousands of years are never good news." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "You think it's dangerous?" The alien gave a slow nod. "Some say the graveyard sector contains ships from a war that ended civilizations." Daniel looked back at the screen again. The ship suddenly seemed less like a machine, and more like a ghost from the past. The auctioneer lowered the price once more. 20,000 credits. Still nothing. The entire auction hall remained silent. Daniel tapped his fingers on the armrest. 20,000 credits. It was still a lot of money for him. But for a ship that size? It was almost nothing. He looked around again. No one else seemed interested. Finally, Daniel slowly raised his hand. "I'll take it." The words echoed across the silent hall. Dozens of alien heads turned toward him at the same time. Some looked shocked. Some looked confused. A few looked worried. The auctioneer blinked in surprise. 20,000 credits from the human pilot in the rear section. "Do we have any higher bids?" Silence. Absolute silence. The hammer struck the table. "Sold." Daniel exhaled slowly. He had just bought the largest ship he had ever seen. For a moment, no one spoke. Then the old Tarkin trader beside him leaned closer. His voice was quiet. "Serious? You should not have done that, human." Daniel frowned slightly. "Why?" The alien stared at the screen where the ancient warship still floated in silent space. "Because ships like that," he paused, "are never truly empty." After the auction ended, the massive hall slowly emptied. Most buyers left excited, talking about their new ships and deals. But Daniel Carter walked out quietly, holding a small data tablet in his hand. On the screen was the ownership record of his new purchase. Vessel ID, unknown. Classification, unknown warship. Status, restricted database. Daniel scratched the back of his head. "That's not very helpful," he muttered. A station worker approached him near the exit gate. "Captain Carter?" the worker asked. Daniel nodded. "Yes." The worker handed him a small metal key chip. "Docking sector 12. That's where your ship is being held. Daniel smiled. Thanks. The worker hesitated before leaving. Good luck, Captain. Daniel noticed the strange tone in the man's voice. Almost like sympathy. But Daniel ignored it and headed toward the docking sector. Orion Trade Station was enormous. The docking areas alone were larger than many space cities. Hundreds of massive hangars stretched across the outer ring of the station. Cargo ships, military vessels, and private yachts floated quietly inside glowing force fields. But docking Sector 12 was different. As Daniel approached the sector, he noticed something strange. It was quiet. Too quiet. Most docking sectors were full of activity, workers moving cargo, engineers repairing ships, pilots checking systems. But here, almost no one was around. Only a few security drones floated near the entrance. Daniel walked toward the main control desk. A board technician looked up from his screen. Name, the technician asked. Daniel Carter, Daniel said. I'm here for the auction ship. The technician paused. Then he slowly leaned back in his chair. Oh, you're the one who bought that ship. Daniel frowned. Yeah. Why does everyone say it like that? The technician shrugged. You'll see. He pressed a button on his console. A large hangar door opened slowly in the distance. Docking Bay 12-7. That's where it is. Daniel thanked him and walked toward the hangar. The metal doors were enormous. Even before they fully opened, Daniel could see something dark inside. Something massive. When the doors finally slid apart, Daniel stopped walking. For a few seconds, he could only stare. The ship was far bigger than it had looked on the auction screen. It filled almost the entire hangar. The long armored hull stretched hundreds of meters across the docking bay. The surface of the ship looked rough and battle-scarred, covered with deep cuts and ancient damage. Large metal structures extended from the sides like wings. Each one held huge engine systems that looked powerful enough to move a small moon. The entire ship looked like it had survived 1,000 wars. Daniel slowly walked closer. Wow, he whispered. A small group of station mechanics stood near the entrance of the hangar. None of them were working. They were just watching the ship from a safe distance. One of them noticed Daniel approaching. You the new owner? The mechanic asked. Daniel nodded proudly. Yep. The mechanic crossed his arms. Brave man. Daniel laughed. It's just an old ship. The mechanic shook his head. That's the problem. Daniel walked around the front landing ramp. The closer he got, the stranger the ship looked. The metal was dark, almost black, but it reflected light in a strange way. It did not look like any material Daniel had seen before. He reached out and touched the surface. The metal felt smooth and cold. Too cold. Even for space-grade armor. Then he noticed something else. Symbols. Strange alien markings were carved into the hull. They glowed faintly with a pale blue light. Daniel studied them carefully. I've never seen writing like this before, he said. One mechanic spoke from behind him. No one has. Daniel turned. You scanned it? The mechanic nodded. Station scientists tried. And they couldn't translate anything. Daniel raised an eyebrow. That made the ship even more interesting. He walked toward the landing ramp. It was partially open. The inside of the ship was completely dark. Dust floated in the air near the entrance. Daniel looked back at the mechanics. You guys coming? All of them immediately shook their heads. "No thanks. You're the captain now." Daniel chuckled. "All right then." He stepped onto the ramp. His boots echoed softly against the metal floor. Each step carried him deeper into the ancient ship. The air inside smelled old. Not rotten. Not damaged. Just ancient. Like a place that had been asleep for a very long time. The corridor ahead of him stretched into darkness. Broken lights hung from the ceiling. Old control panels lined the walls. Daniel activated his small flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness. More strange symbols covered the walls. The same glowing language from the hull. "This ship is older than I thought," Daniel whispered. He walked deeper inside. The silence around him felt heavy. Too heavy. Then suddenly, something happened. A faint electrical sound echoed through the corridor. Tick. Daniel stopped walking. He looked around. Hello. No answer. Then another sound. Tick, tick. Lights flickered above him. One by one, dim blue lights slowly came to life along the corridor walls. Daniel's eyes widened. "I didn't touch anything." The lights continued turning on, spreading deeper into the ship. Power was returning. But Daniel had not activated anything. Then a deep mechanical sound vibrated through the floor. Far below the ship's surface, ancient systems were waking up. Engines. Power cores. Computers. Daniel's flashlight flickered as the ship's internal power began to replace it. The corridor lights grew brighter. The glowing alien symbols on the walls suddenly shined much stronger. And then, a voice filled the entire ship. Cold. Mechanical. Ancient. Biological life form detected. Daniel froze. The voice echoed through the metal halls like thunder. He slowly turned around. Hello. There was a short pause. Then the voice spoke again. Scanning. A beam of blue light suddenly appeared from the ceiling. It passed slowly over Daniel's body. The scan lasted only a few seconds. But it felt much longer. Finally the light disappeared. The ship became silent again. Daniel waited. His heart beat faster. Then the voice returned. Clearer this time. Stronger. Scan complete. Another pause followed. Then the words that changed everything. New commander recognized. Daniel blinked. Wait, what? The voice continued. Command authority transferred. Daniel looked around the empty corridor. Hold on, he said nervously. There must be some mistake. But the ancient ship did not agree. Its systems continued waking up. More lights turned on. Distant machines hummed to life. And somewhere deep inside the massive warship, something powerful began to activate. The voice spoke one final time. Welcome aboard. A short pause followed. Then the ancient AI finished its sentence. Commander Carter. Daniel Carter stood alone in the dim corridor of the ancient warship. The metal walls around him glowed with soft blue symbols. Dust still floated in the air, but the ship was no longer silent. Deep inside the vessel, old machines were waking up. Low vibrations moved through the floor. Somewhere far below, heavy engines slowly powered on after thousands of years. Daniel looked around nervously. Okay, this is new, he said quietly. The mechanical voice returned again. Calm. Cold. Ancient. Commander Carter, primary systems are now online. Daniel rubbed his forehead. Yeah, about that, he said. I think you've got the wrong person. The AI answered immediately. Identity scan confirms, human male. Daniel Carter. Genetic profile accepted. Daniel blinked. Accepted by who? There was a short pause. Then the AI replied. By the ship. Daniel stared down the long hallway. That's not very comforting. The corridor lights grew brighter. More systems were activating. Old screens on the walls flickered to life, showing strange alien symbols and unknown star maps. Daniel slowly walked forward. All right, he said. Let's start simple. What ship is this? The AI responded. Vessel designation, Aegis-class strategic warship. Daniel stopped walking. Strategic warship? Yes. That sounds expensive. The AI did not respond to the joke. Daniel continued moving through the ship. The corridor opened into a large circular chamber. It looked like a command center. A massive holographic table stood in the middle of the room. Several tall control stations surrounded it. Everything looked ancient, but extremely advanced. Daniel stepped closer. The holographic table suddenly activated. A glowing image of the ship appeared above it. Daniel whistled. Okay, that's impressive. The AI spoke again. Aegis-class warships were built for large-scale combat operations. Daniel crossed his arms. How large are we talking? The hologram zoomed out. Suddenly dozens of smaller ships appeared around the ancient warship. Enemy ships. Fleets. Entire armadas. The ancient warship fired bright beams of energy. Within seconds, the entire enemy fleet disappeared. Daniel stared at the display. That large? Yes. Daniel slowly walked around the holographic table. All right. New question. Who built you? For the first time, the AI hesitated. Database access restricted. Daniel frowned. Restricted by who? Original creators. Daniel sighed. Of course. He continued exploring the bridge. Everything in the room looked powerful. Weapon controls. Navigation systems. Defense networks. But something strange caught his attention. Some parts of the control panels were completely dark. Inactive. Daniel pointed at one section. What's that? The AI responded immediately. Classified systems. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Classified from the captain. Yes. Daniel laughed softly. That seems unfair. The AI did not laugh. Authorization level insufficient. Daniel walked toward the dark section of the control panel. Then how do I get authorization? The AI answered calmly. Commander must complete ship integration protocol. Daniel tilted his head. That sounds complicated. Correct. Daniel sighed again. Well, what does that involve? Before the AI could answer, a loud metallic sound echoed through the ship. Clang. Daniel turned quickly. Was that supposed to happen? No, the AI replied. The sound came again. Clang. This time it came from deeper inside the ship. Daniel swallowed. What part of the ship is that? The AI answered. Restricted section. Daniel frowned. You have a lot of restricted sections. The AI ignored the comment. Commander Carter, you are advised to investigate. Daniel pointed at himself. Me? Yes. Daniel looked around the empty bridge. Well. I guess that makes sense. He left the command center and followed the corridor deeper into the ship. The lights guided his path, turning on one by one as he walked. The ship felt alive now. Machines hummed. Air systems started moving again. It felt like the vessel had been waiting a long time for someone to return. Finally Daniel reached a large metal door. The door was massive, far larger than any normal room entrance. The glowing alien symbols on the surface pulsed slowly. Daniel placed his hand on the door. "What's inside?" The AI responded. "Cryogenic storage chamber." Daniel looked confused. "Cryo storage? Like sleeping pods?" "Yes." Daniel pressed a button beside the door. The giant door slowly opened with a deep mechanical rumble. Cold air rushed out. Daniel stepped inside. And immediately froze. The chamber was enormous. Rows and rows of tall cryogenic pods filled the room. Hundreds of them. Maybe even thousands. Each pod stood upright, connected to the walls by thick cables. But something was wrong. Every single pod was empty. Daniel walked slowly through the chamber. "This is creepy," he whispered. The glass pods were dusty and silent. Whatever crew once slept here was long gone. But then Daniel noticed something at the far end of the room. One pod was different. Unlike the others, it still had power. Soft blue light glowed inside it. Daniel approached carefully. The glass surface was clean. Not dusty. Inside the pod was a small object. It floated in the center of the chamber, surrounded by glowing energy. Daniel leaned closer. The object looked like a sphere. A metal sphere, about the size of a basketball. Thin lines of blue light moved across its surface like living circuits. Daniel whispered softly. "What is that?" The AI answered immediately. "Primary weapon core." Daniel stepped back. "A weapon?" "Yes." Daniel stared at the glowing sphere. "That small thing is a weapon?" "Yes." Daniel crossed his arms. "What kind of weapon?" The AI paused. For the first time, its voice sounded slightly different. Almost serious. "Galactic scale defensive system." Daniel blinked. "I'm sorry, did you say galactic scale?" "Yes." Daniel stared at the pod again. "That little ball?" "Yes." Daniel rubbed his temples. "Okay. I feel like there's a very long story behind this." The AI responded quietly. "Correct." Daniel looked around the silent cryo chamber. Thousands of empty pods. One glowing weapon. An ancient warship lost for thousands of years. And suddenly, Daniel understood something. This ship had not been forgotten. It had been abandoned. On purpose. He slowly looked back at the glowing sphere. "Tell me something," he said carefully. The AI waited. Daniel took a deep breath. "Why did the galaxy stop using this ship?" The AI remained silent for a moment. Then it finally answered. "Because the last time this ship was activated." A short pause followed. An entire empire disappeared. Daniel Carter stood silently inside the cryogenic chamber. The glowing sphere inside the pod continued to pulse with soft blue light. Thin lines of energy moved across its metal surface like living veins. Daniel slowly circled the pod. "So, that thing destroyed an empire?" he asked. The ancient AI answered calmly. "Correct." Daniel shook his head. "That sounds like something people should probably keep locked away." "Correct." Daniel stopped walking. Then why is it still here? The AI responded without emotion. Because the weapon was never meant to destroy civilizations. Daniel frowned. Then what was it meant for? There was a long pause. Before the AI could answer, the ship suddenly vibrated. A low alarm echoed through the corridor outside. Daniel turned quickly. What was that? The AI responded immediately. Multiple long-range scanners have detected the activation of this vessel. Daniel crossed his arms. Let me guess, that's bad. Yes. Who detected it? The AI answered. Galactic Monitoring Networks. Daniel exhaled slowly. So the galaxy now knows this ship is awake. Yes. Daniel looked back at the glowing weapon sphere. How long before they show up? The AI responded. Estimated time, 3 hours. Daniel nodded slowly. Well, that's not a lot of time. He left the cryogenic chamber and returned to the command bridge. The ship now felt completely different. Lights filled the corridors. Air systems hummed steadily. Large display screens were active everywhere. The ancient warship was fully awake. When Daniel entered the bridge, the central holographic table activated automatically. A large map of the surrounding star systems appeared above it. Daniel leaned closer. Small red symbols suddenly appeared across the map. Those don't look friendly, he said. They are not, the AI replied. Daniel watched as more red symbols appeared. Military ships. Lots of them. Who are they? Daniel asked. The AI identified them one by one. Galactic Council Patrol Fleet. Another symbol appeared. Outer Rim Defense Coalition. Then another. Private security fleets. Daniel stared at the growing number of ships. They're sending everyone. Yes. Daniel leaned back. That seems like an overreaction. The AI paused. Then it answered. This vessel has been banned by the Galactic Council for over 1,000 years. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Banned. Yes. Daniel walked slowly around the command table. Why exactly? The AI displayed an old historical record. Ancient battle footage appeared in the hologram. A massive war filled the screen. Thousands of ships fought across the stars. Then the ancient warship appeared. The same ship Daniel now owned. It moved slowly through the battlefield. Enemy fleets attacked it from every direction. Missiles. Energy beams. Fighter squadrons. None of it worked. The warship fired a single beam of light. The beam crossed the battlefield. And in seconds, an entire fleet vanished. Not destroyed. Vanished. Daniel stared at the image. That's impossible. The AI responded calmly. That was the first recorded use of the weapon core. The hologram changed again. Another battle. Another empire. Another fleet destroyed. Then the image faded. Daniel rubbed his chin. So the galaxy banned the ship because it was too powerful. Yes. Daniel crossed his arms. That actually makes sense. The AI added one more piece of information. The ship was officially declared forbidden technology. Daniel laughed quietly. And now I own it? Yes. At that exact moment, a loud alert echoed across the bridge. Warning, incoming transmission. Daniel looked up. That was fast. The AI opened the communication channel. A tall alien appeared on the screen. His skin was pale silver, and his uniform carried the symbol of the Galactic Council. His expression was serious. Unidentified vessel, the alien said firmly. This is Council Commander Valen. Daniel raised his hand casually. Hi. The alien paused when he saw the human. You are not the original builders of this ship. Nope, Daniel said. Identify yourself immediately. Daniel Carter, he replied. I legally purchased this vessel at the Orion Trade Station auction. Commander Valen looked stunned for a moment. You bought it? Daniel nodded. 20,000 credits. The commander stared in disbelief. That vessel is forbidden by council law. Daniel shrugged. Well, nobody told the auction house that. The commander's expression hardened. You will power down the vessel immediately and surrender control to the Galactic Council. Daniel glanced around his bridge. The ancient systems hummed quietly. The glowing alien symbols shined brighter now. For the first time since buying the ship, Daniel felt like a captain. He looked back at the commander. What happens if I say no? The alien's voice became colder. Then we will disable the vessel by force. Daniel smiled slightly. Good luck with that. The commander narrowed his eyes. You clearly do not understand the situation. Daniel leaned forward. You're right. He paused. I don't. Then he added calmly. But neither do you. Commander Valen frowned. What do you mean? Daniel looked at the glowing ship controls around him. He remembered the AI's earlier words. The weapon was not made for war between civilizations. It was made for something else. Something bigger. Something the galaxy had forgotten. Daniel turned slightly toward the AI. Show them, he whispered. The holographic map suddenly changed. Instead of fleets and star systems, a new signal appeared. Far beyond the edge of known space. It was huge. Massive. Moving slowly toward the galaxy. Commander Valen's eyes widened. What is that? Daniel looked back at the screen. For once, he said calmly, I think we're about to find out. The ancient AI spoke quietly from the ship's systems. Unknown threat approaching. A short pause followed. Then it added the words that sent fear through the entire bridge. Estimated arrival time. The map zoomed closer. 6 days. The command bridge of the ancient warship was silent. Daniel Carter stood in front of the holographic table while the glowing star map floated in the air. The strange signal at the edge of the galaxy pulsed slowly like a distant heartbeat. Across the screen, Commander Valen of the Galactic Council stared in shock. What is that signal? The alien demanded. Daniel looked at the map again. Honestly, he said. I was hoping you would tell me. Valen's expression hardened. You are playing a dangerous game, human. Daniel shook his head. No. I'm trying to understand why the galaxy banned the only ship that seems to know what that thing is. The alien commander was silent for a moment. Then he spoke again. All council fleets will arrive in your sector within 2 hours. You will surrender the vessel immediately. Daniel sighed. You really don't want to listen, do you? Before Valen could answer, the ship's AI spoke through the bridge. Commander Carter. Daniel turned slightly. Yes. Threat probability increasing. The holographic map zoomed in on the distant signal. Now it looked even stranger. The object was not a ship. Not a fleet. It was something much larger. Dark shapes moved around the signal like a cloud. Thousands of small objects orbiting one massive center. Daniel crossed his arms. That doesn't look friendly. No, the AI replied. Commander Valen suddenly spoke again. What is that structure? The AI answered calmly. Unknown hostile construct. Daniel blinked. Construct. Yes. The AI highlighted parts of the signal. Large geometric patterns appeared inside the dark mass. Sharp angles. Perfect symmetry. Daniel leaned closer. That looks artificial. Yes. The AI paused before continuing. Historical records suggest the original builders of this vessel created the Aegis-class warships to defend against this threat. Commander Valen frowned. That is impossible. Daniel glanced at him. Why? Because that enemy was destroyed 10,000 years ago. Daniel slowly looked back at the map. Well. He pointed at the growing signal. Someone forgot to tell them. The bridge fell silent. The distant signal grew larger on the map. Even from this far away, its size was terrifying. Commander Valen spoke again, but his voice was no longer confident. How many of these constructs are there? The AI answered without hesitation. Unknown. Long-range scans detect multiple movement patterns. Daniel whistled softly. That sounds like more than one. Yes. Valen suddenly looked concerned. Our fleets are not prepared for this. Daniel raised an eyebrow. But you were ready to attack me. The alien commander did not answer. Instead, he looked directly at Daniel. You must shut down that vessel immediately. Daniel stared at him. Did you even hear what the AI just said? Yes. And you still want me to power down the only ship that might stop that thing? The Council will handle the situation. Daniel laughed quietly. With what? He gestured toward the map. That thing is bigger than most planets. Valen remained silent. The truth was clear. Even the mighty Galactic Council had no real answer. The ancient AI suddenly spoke again. Commander Carter. Daniel turned. Yes. Primary weapon core remains inactive. Daniel nodded. Yeah, I figured. Activation requires commander authorization. Daniel raised an eyebrow. So I can actually use it? Yes. Commander Valen immediately shouted. You will not activate that weapon. Daniel looked back at the screen. Why not? That device is responsible for the destruction of the Drakari Empire. Daniel shrugged slightly. I'm starting to think they might have had a good reason. Valen's voice grew angry. You do not understand the consequences. Daniel looked back at the holographic map. The approaching threat was larger now. Closer. Moving faster than expected. Maybe not, he said quietly. But I do understand one thing. He turned toward the AI. What happens if that thing reaches the galaxy? The AI answered instantly. Probability of galactic civilization survival, less than 4%. The bridge fell silent again. Even Commander Valen had no response. Daniel placed both hands on the command table. So the choices are pretty simple, he said. Either the galaxy destroys this ship. He pointed toward the distant threat. Or that thing destroys the galaxy. Commander Valen looked exhausted. You are asking the council to trust a human pilot who bought an illegal warship at an auction. Daniel smiled slightly. Yeah. When you say it like that, it sounds crazy. The alien commander studied Daniel for a long moment. Then he asked a quiet question. What would you do, Captain Carter? Daniel thought about it. He thought about the empty cryopods. The ancient builders who had created this ship. The weapon they left behind. And the threat they had tried to stop. Then he looked at the AI. What were your builders like? Daniel asked. The AI answered. They believed survival required courage. Daniel nodded slowly. Yeah, humans believe that too. He turned back toward the command table. All right, he said. Let's wake this old monster up. Commander Valen immediately shouted. Human, stop. But Daniel had already placed his hand on the glowing control panel. The alien symbols lit up beneath his fingers. The ship seemed to respond instantly. Deep within the massive warship, ancient reactors roared to life. Energy rushed through thousands of systems. The bridge lights brightened. The entire vessel trembled with power. Daniel looked at the AI. Weapon core status. The AI answered calmly. Charging. Outside the station, the enormous warship slowly lifted from its docking clamps for the first time in thousands of years. Across the sector, incoming fleets detected the sudden surge of energy. Commander Valen's voice came through the speakers one last time. You have just activated the most feared weapon in galactic history. Daniel watched the star map carefully. The distant threat was still coming. Slow. Massive. Unstoppable. Daniel folded his arms. Good, he said quietly. Because I think we're going to need it, Rocket. The ancient warship slowly moved away from Orion Trade Station. For the first time in thousands of years, its engines were fully active. Deep blue light poured out of the massive engine wings, lighting the darkness of space. Around the station, dozens of alien warships had already arrived. Council cruisers. Defense fleets. Private military ships. Every radar in the sector was locked on the same target. Daniel Carter's ship. Inside the command bridge, Daniel watched the tactical map. Red icons filled the area around him. Hundreds of ships. All pointing their weapons toward the ancient warship. Commander Valen's voice returned through the communication channel. Captain Carter, you must power down immediately. Daniel leaned back in the captain's chair. Still worried about the ship? Yes. Daniel pointed at the holographic map. You should be worried about that instead. The massive signal from deep space was now clearly visible. It had moved closer. Much closer. Even the council fleets could see it now. The dark structure stretched across thousands of kilometers. Around it floated countless smaller objects. Ships. Machines. Or something far worse. Commander Valen stared at the image. That is impossible. The ship's AI spoke calmly. Enemy construct confirmed. Daniel looked at the map. How long until it reaches us? The AI answered. Estimated arrival time, 42 hours. A quiet wave of fear moved across the council fleets. Daniel could hear it in the sudden silence of the communication channels. No one had expected the threat to be real. But now they could see it. And it was enormous. Commander Valen spoke again. What exactly is that thing? The AI answered with the same cold voice. Historical designation, Void Harvesters. Daniel frowned. That doesn't sound friendly. No, the AI replied. They are machines designed to consume star systems. The bridge became completely silent. Even Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. Consume star systems? He asked slowly. Yes. The holographic map zoomed closer. Images appeared from ancient records. Entire planets surrounded by the dark machines. Stars collapsing. Civilizations disappearing. These entities were responsible for the extinction of multiple galactic empires, the AI explained. Commander Valen whispered quietly. The ancient records, we thought those were myths. They were not, the AI said. Daniel crossed his arms. So your builders created this ship to fight them? Yes. And the weapon core? Designed to destroy Void Harvester command structures. Daniel nodded slowly. Now it makes sense. Across the sector, the Council fleets began moving nervously. Their ships were powerful. But compared to the massive approaching construct, they looked tiny. Commander Valen spoke again. Even if this ship is powerful, it cannot fight that alone. Daniel smiled slightly. Good thing humans are stubborn. The alien commander frowned. What does that mean? Daniel stood up from the captain's chair. He looked at the holographic map again. Then he spoke calmly. AI, what happens if the weapon core is fully activated? The AI responded immediately. Primary weapon will create a gravitational collapse inside the enemy command structure. Daniel raised an eyebrow. So, basically a giant space explosion. Correct. Daniel nodded. And the downside? The AI paused. Energy output will exceed safe levels. Daniel sighed. I had a feeling you were going to say that. Commander Valen interrupted. What does that mean? The AI answered. The Aegis-class warship will not survive the attack. Silence filled the bridge again. Daniel looked down at the glowing control panel. So the ship destroys the enemy. He paused. And destroys itself. Yes. Commander Valen spoke quickly. You cannot do that. Daniel looked at the alien commander on the screen. Why not? You would be sacrificing the most powerful vessel in the galaxy. Daniel shrugged. If the galaxy survives, that sounds like a good trade. Valen stared at him in disbelief. You would sacrifice yourself for civilizations that try to destroy your ship. Daniel laughed softly. Humans have a strange habit of doing things like that. Outside the ship, the massive council fleets watched as the ancient warship moved slowly away from the station. Toward the approaching darkness. The Void Harvester construct continued moving forward. Its massive shape blocked entire stars. Thousands of smaller machines surrounded it like a deadly swarm. Daniel sat back in the captain's chair again. AI, he said calmly. Yes, Commander. Start weapon charging sequence. The bridge lights dimmed instantly. Deep inside the ship, the glowing weapon sphere began releasing enormous energy. The entire warship vibrated as ancient reactors pushed far beyond their normal limits. Across the sector, every fleet detected the power surge. Commander Valen's voice returned one last time. Captain Carter, there may still be another way. Daniel smiled slightly. Maybe. He looked out the front window of the bridge. Far away, the giant enemy construct slowly approached. But right now, he continued, this seems like the fastest one. The AI spoke again. Weapon charge, 20%. Daniel leaned back calmly. For the first time since buying the ship, he felt completely certain. The ancient builders had created this weapon to save the galaxy. And now a human captain would finish the job. Commander Valen spoke quietly through the speakers. Human. Daniel turned slightly. Yes. If this works, the galaxy will remember your name. Daniel smiled. Honestly. He looked back at the charging weapon systems. I just hope the galaxy survives long enough to remember anything. The AI spoke again. Weapon charge, 60%. Outside, the ancient warship accelerated toward the massive enemy construct. Behind it, hundreds of alien fleets watched in silence. For the first time in thousands of years, the weapon that once terrified the galaxy was about to fire again. But this time, it was not a weapon of fear. It was a weapon of survival. And at its command was a single human pilot, Captain Daniel Carter. Rocket.